So one of the most important things that they have discovered, at least in my readings of the research on organizational change and development, and this is, I'm quoting from, not quoting, I'm paraphrasing from Influencers by Kerry Patterson and his team. The number one characteristic of healthy organizations is that people know how to speak up to each other. And if they don't, if you have an organization in which people go out into the parking lot and talk about other people behind their back, and go into the teacher's lounge and complain about whatever, and don't go directly to the source, you have an unhealthy organization. Human beings are sort of in the habit of gossiping about others, of exaggerating what happened, of looking for allies when they're feeling hurt, and all of those kinds of things. Those kinds of things are naturally human behaviors, but if you allow them to be your culture without teaching people how to get more skillful in terms of addressing things, your culture will not be a learning culture, because people will not trust each other. And so it is okay, for example, if somebody who's upset to come and vent, and they vent to you, let's say. Here's what's not okay. For you to then become, oh yeah, she's just like that, she does that with me too, yeah, she does, blah, 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 blah. You join the person in their anger, frustration, and pain. Instead of saying, I hear you, I hear that you needed to vent, and I now wonder how are you going to go to that person? What are you going to say? How are you going to resolve this conflict? Do you want to do a role play? Like, how can I help you? But do not get sucked in. And that is really hard. And we're learning how to do that in Metamorphosis, and we practice that, and it's not always easy. Ironically, the people that were working on the communication session had a little row at one point, and they were like, oh, isn't this ironic? We're working on communication. We have to learn to talk to each other about whatever it is that just happened. And that's the work. That is the work. So let's talk a little bit about trust. We sent out an article by Dan Newby prior to this institute, and we asked everybody, if you have a chance, read it. What I loved about that article is he helped me to redefine trust from a moral character assessment. It's sort of like what Rob is talking about in terms of teachers versus teaching. Teaching is a learnable skill. People are people. Everybody has faults and issues and whatever, right? So it's not a moral issue. It becomes that when we think about trust as a judgment of character. So trust is actually a way of discerning whether or not you and this other person can keep your promise to each other, can make and keep a promise to each other. So then it becomes a more active thing. It is an assessment, and it's our role to discern. And when we don't discern well, not to blame the other person as being, a screw-up. That in fact, we made an assessment that wasn't accurate. And maybe we need to talk to that person about what's going on. How do you assess trustworthiness? You're essentially looking for three things. When we make a promise to each other, are we sincere? Is the person yesing you? Or is the person sincerely saying, I want to do X, Y, or Z, whatever it might be? Is the person able to do that thing? So some of my Canadian friends reminded me of a quote from The Wizard of Oz. When Dorothy discovers that the wizard cannot give her what she asked for, she says to him, you are a very bad man. And he says in return, no, I'm not a bad man, I'm a very bad wizard. And that's the difference. He wasn't knowing, he didn't know how to be a wizard. He was not competent in that area. And yes, he did some things like send her off on a journey to get the witch's broomstick and things like that, but that wasn't intentionally done from, meanness or whatever. It was his own way of trying to figure out what to do. So this notion of competency. Is the person who's asking you to do X, Y, or Z, or the policymakers who are creating that policy, competent in the thing that they're talking about? I don't have a lot of confidence in Arne Duncan. he's never taught. I don't. So when he tells me something, I go and look at 5 or 6 or 7 other sources that I have more confidence in. And then I decide how much of his policy I want to pay attention to. And what risk I'm willing to take. Because that's critical thinking. That's analytical thinking. That's what it takes to be in a democracy. And I'm not afraid of Arne Duncan. Or the people that have the same perspective that he does. I'm a little tired of lawyers and businessmen running the school system. I don't think schools should be designed on business models. I don't think they match. I think schools were designed to promote democracy. If I'm really being optimistic and altruistic. And then reliability. Is the person reliable? If they actually can do what they say, competent, they're sincere, will they do it? How many times have we agreed to do stuff and then not been able to do it for some reason outside of our control? It just happens that way, it just happens that way. It doesn't mean the person is unreliable, and that's the other thing to think about, is to share that. I meant to be here by 8 o'clock, but my bus broke down. So that's reliability with a little glitch in the system. We meant to have air conditioning on Monday. The air conditioner broke down. That's not anything that anybody could do anything about. Culture holds invisible power, and which you can define broadly. So a lot of times people hear the word power and they get a kind of funny feeling. There's nothing wrong with power. Power is neither good nor bad. It's how it's used. It's how it's experienced. And it's not power over, it's power with. So anything that inhibits our freedom to think deeply, analytically, critically, and creatively has power over us. We have given away our power to that thing, whatever it might be. And I've been saying, you know what? Wake up, use your imagination, be willing to play and tinker, and you will regain your power. Think about things. Just because I am critical of educational policy today doesn't mean I want a revolution. It means I want to have a deeper, richer conversation so we can come to better solutions for things we all care about. That's having power with. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I would like you to